So hello, beloved church family of the Oakland Center for Spiritual Living. My name is Judith Roberts, and I'll be your host tonight. I welcome you to our midweek Oasis Wednesday night service. As you'll experience tonight, our Wednesday night Oasis is a place where we come together as a community to be spiritually refreshed between Sundays. Most Wednesday night services build upon the theme of the previous Sunday, sharing in a satsang style, expressing science of mind principles, and practices with the intention that these gatherings be informal, intimate, and interactive. Our annual theme for 2024 is a grand rising. Our monthly theme for September was Pieces into Peace. Our theme for October is Power to the People. But today is a carryover from our last Sunday talk, which was given by Reverend Sunshine Michelle, who introduced the topic of putting the pieces together. And tonight, our speaker will continue the exploration of the same topic. So as we gather tonight, I really want to welcome you. Early in her ministry with us, Reverend Sunshine Michelle invited us to come to the center well. To do so, she shared these 6 C's for us to consider and incorporate. Compassion, come with the heart of love and tenderness. Communication, come ready to exchange openly. Camaraderie, come in friendship and family. Communion, come in harmony and ready to share. Collaboration, come in partnership and cooperation. And consciousness, come in spiritual awareness and truth. So the 6 C's. As we move into the program tonight, these 6 C's are the premise of sharing a wonderful evening with you tonight. If you're new to our community or watching our recording, please visit our homepage at www.oaklandcsl.org and click on the I'm New icon. And look at the lower left-hand corner of that page to submit your email address. Once you do, you'll begin receiving the village news through email, which comes out once a week on Thursdays. It has all the information on what is happening at the center in the coming weeks. Before we get started with the talk, please mute your own audio microphone during tonight's service. You can leave your camera on. When you mute your audio microphone, it will improve the quality of our recording and tonight's transmission. Please stay tuned through the end of the service to receive special and important announcements. So I would like to introduce our speaker tonight. Her name is Megan Lemon Ross. She's a practitioner at the Oakland Center. Megan has been in religious science since the age of 16. She grew up in the Vallejo Center and came to the Oakland Center in 2019. And in 2023 became a practitioner. And professionally, Megan is a nurse practitioner. So Megan, thank you in advance for being our speaker tonight. As we do with every organized event at the center, we open with prayer. So Megan, will you be doing the honors this evening?
Alice Knutson will be praying us in.
Okay, Alice.
Okay, everyone, just take a nice deep breath. And just taking this deep breath with me, enter into this moment where all there is the love and the goodness of God.
Louder, please.
The stillness where we are right here and right now, I know that God is everywhere present. And I know that God is complete love and unconditional love. all wise, all knowing, all powerful, continually blessing us. God always has our back, no matter what. And this goodness and this generosity and this love and this kindness is surrounding us in this very moment as we come together tonight for the Wednesday night oasis. And so I bless this time together, knowing that Megan is filled with this wisdom that she has sharing with us this evening to improve our lives, to open our hearts, to introduce wisdom, and to just come together in community. And so I know that Spirit is right here, right now, blessing each and every one of us, the AV team, everyone that has participated to make this possible. And as we breathe in and breathe out as a community together, I just know that tonight will be fantastic. It is fantastic. And so let us send Megan some love as she circulates that love within and among us as well. And so I know, and please join me in saying that all is well, and so it is.
So it is. Thank you, Alice. Thank you. That was lovely. So now we will turn the program over to Megan.
Thank you. So as Judith mentioned, tonight our topic is the end of the series of Pieces into Peace, where we're putting all the pieces together. And in the general outline, the pieces that we're specifically talking about are the idea of inner peace, peace with others, peace in community, and world peace. So putting all of these pieces together for practical application in each of our lives and our individual and collective experience. So preparing for this talk, it reminds me of so many different principles that we practice in religious science. But it all draws back in my mind to starting with ourselves, to starting individually. When we are seeking peace, we have to first realize that within ourselves to experience peace with others, peace in our community, and peace in the world. So there's just a few different things I want to highlight, and then I would like to share a story that I heard while preparing for this talk that I feel really beautifully illustrates putting all of the pieces together in a profound way. So the first thing I want to just highlight before sharing the story is um, how does it begin with us? Exploring individually and collectively is something that sometimes can be hard to do. And we talk about spiritual practice, meditation, self love, exercise, feeding yourself well. So these are all broad examples of different things that we can do to care for ourselves so that we can individually look at our consciousness and how we're relating to the world. um, and and if we like the way that we're relating to the world, whether that's in our personal experiences, the different roles that we may play in the world, our relationships, the community that we operate in, whether that's spiritual community or physical community, the location where you live, and work and family communities. So to me, the broader idea of putting all of the pieces together is really a call to action. It's a call to deepen within ourselves the places and the spaces that we may be either blocked from or even not, you know, not consciously aware that it is preventing something that we wish to experience. So we always, in religious science, we always talk about the mental equivalent. And this is the perfect example of that. If we wish to seek peace, if we wish to experience that peace in our own life, we have to know it, feel it, and see it within ourselves. And we may have that in some aspects and areas of our life, but there's always an opportunity and an invitation to go deeper, to express that further in every area of our life, or maybe into some specific areas of our life. And so that's why I feel it is a call to action. How can I reflect inner peace in a different way? Or where am I blocking myself from experiencing that inner peace with others, or in community, or in relationship? And right now, as the Center for Spiritual Living and Oakland Center for Spiritual Living are our center, we are practicing many aspects of how we can evolve from our prosperity practice to 100 days of the mindful election. So these are tools that really invite us both individually and collectively to go deeper, to experience putting the pieces together. So I briefly talked about this story. So I just want to kind of set up the context for this story. As Judith mentioned, I'm a nurse practitioner, but I'm a mobile nurse practitioner. So I drive around much of Contra Costa County, and I visit patients in their home. And because I am always in the car, I like to listen to various things while I'm driving, sometimes books on tape. But there is a podcast that I really enjoy, because I find that it is very much in alignment with the spiritual principles and practices that I would like to deepen for myself in my own life. And it's also very educational. So this past week, ironically, the topic was about a peace summit. So I will mention the name of the podcast, because if anybody would like to go back and listen to it further, it is available on any device where you receive a podcast. So the podcast is called Commune, and there was a series of talks with 3 people individually and then 2 people together. I'm going to talk to you about the role of the 2 people together. So the talk was about peacekeeping in the Middle East. And the reason how this talk came about is there was a professor at Columbia who was teaching a class called Peacekeeping and Negotiation prior to the war breaking out between Israel and Palestine. In this class, the professor facilitated talking circles with both Palestinian students and as well as Israeli students. And the opportunity created itself when the war broke out for them to practice what they were learning in this class of peacekeeping and negotiation. So, tension was high. People had very different religious, political views, and the protests broke out on campus where different students they had the encampments, and there was a lot of controversy going on with the college not keeping people safe. But one of the things that really struck me about this particular conversation was that this demonstrated to me just a beautiful example of putting the pieces together. So the first individual I'd like to talk about is a Palestinian student who grew up on the West Bank. He grew up in a refugee camp, having been the third generation of his family to be born in a refugee camp. All he knew was the violence and the anger that took place by growing up in that experience. When this, sorry, I didn't mention his name. I would like to mention his name. This individual's name is Mohsen Madawi, and he is the founder of the Palestine Student Union at Columbia University. And he sought to open the dialogue with both Palestinian and Israeli students, as well as the administration on Columbia, at the Columbia University and Brown College and UCLA, when they participated in this peace summit earlier this year, to open the dialogue for understanding, for meeting each other heart to heart, to not necessarily change the other's point of view on the war or the political dynamic, I will say, that's going on right now in that region of the world, but to allow each other to meet each other heart to heart. And one of the things that really struck me of what his purpose was that he was seeking to acknowledge the human dignity and opportunities to change the status quo in conversations surrounding Palestinian and Israeli relationships. His focus was to cultivate relationships on areas of common ground and cooperation, understanding, empathizing, understanding the root cause and the circumstances was not necessary, because there was no desire to justify actions or to play the role of a victim. The vision was to relate to each other from a human perspective, to understand how trauma influences perspective and what actions can be taken to physically release harm and hurt, to stand for healing and understand each other from an open heart. So hearing this first aspect of this individual's talk, where he really discusses not having any hope for peace, not having any hope of ever leaving a refugee camp, to coming to America and going to Columbia University and having the war break out when they were already attempting to have a different relationship with each other based on political and, you know, history and different religious points of views of how the conflict should be handled in that area. This man really just stepped out of his self to cultivate peace in a way that, in my opinion, if you listen to the rest of the talk, is so profound, of putting the pieces together. He demonstrated that he was going to take this very challenging situation and move through this trauma so that he may connect with another individual in their heart space. And that, to me, is the deepest expression of oneness that we can experience. And the joy and the beauty and something so challenging, that if this individual can step out of himself to demonstrate this, just not only in this conflict, but really became an example for the whole university on how to have productive talks, how to relate to other students, how to move to a place of healing, I think just exemplifies the idea of putting the pieces together, taking the individual idea of what he needed to do to have inner peace and coming together in community and trying to translate that into world peace, into moving from a place that many people have determined that they don't think can ever have a peaceful coexistence. And then the second part of the talk is his counterpart, who is a American Israeli student, actually from right here in Oakland. He was born in Oakland, and later his family moved to Israel to a settlement also on the West Bank. And his name is Aron Dardik. He is a member and a founding member and social activist for Israeli Students for Peace at the Columbia University campus. And he came together to share his experience of having the joy of moving to Israel and living in a place that he exemplified as, his religious homeland, and having that experience to live there. And then later being forced to join the Air Force and execute, in his words, execute acts of violence against Palestinians based off of the conflict that he morally did not feel served his own personal beliefs. And as a result of his personal beliefs, he refused and spent 4 months in a prison. So this as well, he reports he was conditioned to always believe that the other side was wrong. There was no understanding, there was no coming together, there was no human heart to heart. But when he listened to himself, when he dove deep into his own oneness, he stood for what he believed in despite the consequences, despite knowing that that would take him away from his family and take away his freedom. He did not feel that he could continue to perpetuate violence because of whatever political or reasons they were telling him. And they have come together at the same place during the same time of this breaking out of this war. After so many years, they're both in their 20s, so everything that happened before, they've only ever been told about. But then they were able to step back and say that I want to be for peace. This doesn't feel right in my body. I know that this is another person that I want to love, even if it means being uncomfortable, not being accepted by the status quo. And for him, it even meant imprisonment. So I think that is a divine example of everything had happened for a reason, for these two to align in the same place at the same time. They stand for the same thing, but from different perspectives, from the Israeli perspective and from the Palestine perspective. And they have taken the charge to be the peacekeepers for Columbia University, to advocate for nonviolent communication, to advocate for healing and coming together and seeing each other heart to heart. So, listening to this conversation, there were 4 things that really stood out to me. And it was the possibility of hope, understanding that each of us is on this planet at this exact time in the places and the spaces we are for a divine purpose, and that we are collectively here together, and we get to choose. We get to choose how we operate and from what principles we operate from. If we wish to experience peace within ourselves, peace with another, peace in our community, peace in our election as we're focusing on 100 mindful days, then we must embody that. And embodying that is a call to action to go deeper. Where are the places that I may be closing myself off from? Where are the situations and the circumstances that I need to surrender? I need to surrender to the divine so that I may express these qualities further. So the call to action for these individuals was just knowing that things couldn't continue the way that they always had continued. And they didn't know how or why or even what to do. But they just knew that what was taking place didn't work for them anymore. And they also felt it didn't work for the world. And the idea was that they needed to empathize and be able to tell each other's stories, to walk with each other through experiences, to recognize someone's trauma and pain, to truly see people and meet each other heart to heart. So I think that if we look at this example, we can reflect on our own spiritual practices, our own principles, and how can we go deeper. So I'd like to read you a quote from Ernest Holmes about peace, and then I have a couple of questions for us to talk about. So my quote from Ernest Holmes is from The Essential Ernest, and he discusses the three enemies of mankind. This quote comes from page 171 to 172. There are three great enemies of mankind: war, disease, and poverty. And we believe that these three great enemies must finally be overcome as divine wisdom and infinite intelligence find a more complete outlet through the mind of man. We are conscious that peace is the power at the heart of God, that at the very center of the universe, there are equilibrium, poise, peace, love, truth, and beauty. And on this Armistice Day, we feel that we would draw closer into this beauty, into this divine presence, into the realization of this eternal peace. We must finally triumph over all war, which must finally heal all disease, and which must finally destroy every sense of lack, of limitation, and of want. I presume that everyone would rather have peace than anything else on earth. If everyone really is desiring peace, and if desire were in effect prayer for peace, then would have had peace a long time ago. There are not many people in the world who are opposing to have peace. There couldn't be, particularly in any age, with anything other than the universal peace would lead to universal destruction. So understanding that it's not just a prayer for peace, but it's a call to action. It's a call to action in embodying the qualities of a peaceful coexistence with ourselves and in community. In Science of the Mind, we talk about being an instrument of peace. So I'd like to pose the question of, what does it mean to be an instrument of peace? What does that look like to you? And what does it feel like in your body? Peter, do we have the breakout rooms?
Yeah, okay, just a second. Somebody just came on, so I've got to redo my group thing.
Okay,
So give me a minute here.
We had two people come on, Peter. We had Nikki and Karen come on.
Yes, I saw that. Thank you. Okay, I'm ready. So I send them to their rooms.
okay, and I'll repeat the question. There are actually two questions, so I'm going to repeat the first question. What does being an instrument of peace look like to you? And what does that feel like in your body?
Okay, great. So tell them they have about 4 minutes each to share. So yeah, and then we'll come back, right?
So,
Okay.
yeah, 4 minutes each in the breakout room, share with your partner, and then we'll come back together and we can share together. Thank you.
Okay.
Unmute yourself, Megan.
Welcome back. Does anybody want to share something they discussed in the breakout room of what they see as being an instrument of peace or how that makes them feel?
Nikki, I want you to share yours.
Muted. You're muted. You're muted. Thank you.
Said, well, okay. I was kind of waiting to let somebody else speak because I tend to be the most uncomfortable person with silence. So I tend to jump in and speak first. But what I was talking about is, I was telling Deborah when I was first learning to meditate, I used that St. Francis prayer over and over about, Lord, make me the instrument of thy peace.
Yeah.
Where there's hatred, let me sow love. Where there's injury, pardon, and so on and so on. I'm sure you all know it. And that what I find, and I also mentioned that song, Let There Be Peace on Earth and Let It Begin with Me. And so I feel like I can feel effective if I work on peace within me.
Mm.
And I get frustrated looking at the world peace. So I stay with let there be peace on earth and let it begin with me. And what I find is the more I can move away from my sort of judgmental, critical, whatever self and into making myself more and more a being of love and openness and generosity and friendliness, the more I feel at peace within myself and I feel joy within myself. And I love to talk to people, just anybody, anywhere. And I was buying dog food last week and I just had this wonderful conversation with the salesperson there. We were just telling silly stories and showing each other pictures of my dog and her child. And, you know, those things just make me feel really happy and full of love and open inside. And I think I was a nice part of her day too. So that's kind of my idea of bringing peace in the world, is first bringing it into myself, because I grew up so critical and judgmental and kind of a negative outlook. And I mean, that was what I grew up in. I think my inherent nature was to be joyful and happy and loving, but I've had to work to get back to that place. And that's me moving towards peace, I think, and love and joy. So.
Thank you. That was great. Would anyone else like to share? Alice?
Alice, okay, go ahead.
Well, the first thing I wanted to say was, Nikki, you're a manifestation of Judith's and my prayer, because we mentioned the prayer that you recited,
St. Francis.
Saint Francis, and we said, well, maybe we can get someone to recite that, and then you did.
Yeah, I can do the whole thing, but you can
It's
look it up. It's wonderful.
beautiful poem. It's very beautiful. But what came up for me was, my response to the question was, what brings peace to inner peace? What was the question again, Megan?
What does being an instrument of peace look like? And
Yeah.
how does that feel in your body?
So being an instrument of peace for me is when I surrender to my ego and let go and slow down and be patient and give myself time. But it's surrendering to that place where I want to get into a power struggle with myself or someone else, and just breathe and slow down. And I love, but Dorothy says this a lot, be still and know God.
Mhm.
And I just love it every time she says that, because it's a reminder, be still and know God.
Mhm.
So if I can get to that, that's the key. If I can get to that, then everything will turn around and it'll go in a different direction. So, and how it feels in my body is I'm relaxed, and I like people, like you were saying, Nikki, and it makes me a nicer person. I want to connect, and it's just a calm feeling. I'm complete.
Thank you.
Okay, Alice.
Would anybody else like to share?
I'm on the phone, and this is Deborah, and it is so interesting because everything that everybody is saying, I absolutely resonate with. In addition to the peace song, of which Nikki was talking about, I love that song, and I really want to see if we could bring it back to church and end like that, because I believe that it is an affirmation, an affirmation that really takes hold in the body. And when it is sung, not only do I feel it inside, but I also express it more outside. There is a sense of feelingness that takes over me that feels like love expressing.
Mhm.
And so the beauty of this conversation, I was talking to Nikki, who had come on a little later than and she wanted to know more about the podcast, and I told her that I'm going to ask Megan to repeat that podcast again, because I think it's worth listening to for all of us, because I thought you were absolutely phenomenal in its example of every one of us wants peace. And so I know that when I am talking to other people, I want to give them space to be themselves, as well as I want people to give me space to be me, so that we can get that connection, that peace can operate on both sides, and we can have a joyful conversation. Yeah. And so that's that's what I think. I'm complete.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you, Deborah.
So the podcast is called Commune, COMMUNE, and the whole focus of the podcast is on health, healing, spiritual practices. It's a lot of different topics, but it encompasses all of those things. And this particular episode that I talked about was a 4-part series. And it was actually a summit that they put together based off of this class that was taking place at Columbia before the war broke out. And as a result of that, both of these individuals have become activists on campus. They've created different student movements and organizations. They also both travel to different spiritual communities, often being welcomed by the other side to facilitate conversations around as a vision for peace and between Palestinians and Israelis, and how do we not only think about the political aspects of peace in a two-state solution, but the process of getting there. And they really focus on healing, and in order to heal, they need to see each other as people. So it's a 4-part podcast. The first part of the podcast is an interview with the professor, who is actually the mother of the person who runs this podcast. And then the first student, who is the Palestinian activist, the second student is the Israeli activist, and then them together and how they foraged these talks and brought together the campus on for Columbia University, Brown, and also UCLA participated because the podcast is hosted in Topanga Canyon in Southern California. So
Oh, great.
So I think we have time for one more before we transition into the announcements.
okay.
Hi, it's Sabrina.
Sabrina, yeah.
Yeah. I was mentioning, and I think it was sparked by the example that was given, but for me, sometimes the journey to becoming an instrument of peace takes courage, especially being that peace in such opposition. And so what it feels like in my body at first can be tremendous fear. And walking through it, knowing that all things are well, and getting to that side where I can just be just peace feels beautiful. But sometimes it just doesn't start there for me.
Thank you, Sabrina.
That was really well said, Sabrina. Thank you. I think that probably, I know I've experienced that too. Yeah. So now I think we're going to transfer into the announcements. I want to thank Megan for a really engaging and interesting and deep topic. Thank you, Megan. And let's go into our slides. So this Sunday, October 6th, Reverend Dr. Sunshine Michelle will be speaking on The Power Begins Within, and meditation will start at 10, followed by the service at 10:30. Next slide. Peter, next slide. It's not moving. There we go. Okay, and on Wednesday, October 9th, at our midweek oasis, like tonight, Regina Buckwalter will be discussing the same topic, The Power Begins Within, for a deeper conversation. And as with tonight, meditation is at 6:30 and the service starts at 7 by Zoom. And if you want, you can go to www.oaklandcsl.org and click on the services for the link. Okay, next slide. Join our 2024 daily community spiritual practice using the Abundance Book, 40-Day Prosperity Plan by John Randolph Price. Today, we're on the 36th day of the program using the 6th affirmation in the book. Follow along daily in order, in the order that the affirmations appear. And then the Women's Spiritual Empowerment Group is back. I'm just going to move my announcements a little bit here. And starts a new 4-week series. Oh, it already started on September 29th. And it's on the October 6th, the 20th, and November 3rd. Please sign up on the groups page at the oaklandcsl.org. And I think that this is drop-in. I don't think you have to attend all of them. You can come as you're able. So hope to see you there. Can go to the next slide. And join OCSL at the Alameda Pride Festival. That's this Saturday, 11 to 5 at Chocheño Park, 2430 Encinitas Avenue in Alameda. OCSL will be having a booth and we need volunteers. So please contact Linda Wyman at bookstore@oaklandcsl.org or Sam Ladion at oaklandcsl.org. Okay. Join the growing movement of My Election Intention, 100 Days of Mindful Practice, July 28th through November 4th. Tune out fear, tune in vision, with 10 somatic healing principles based on the book, What It Takes to Heal by Prentice Hemphill. Text JOIN at 470-784-0250 to hear daily inspirational audio messages. They come in at 7 o'clock on your phone every morning, and they're very good. Even Reverend Sunshine Michelle was the speaker last Sunday. They rotate speakers all over the country. Okay, next slide. Join our chair dedication campaign. Create your own plate inscription that will go on the back of a chair in our sanctuary or social hall. There are 4 levels to choose from: platinum, gold, silver, and bronze, each having a different number of lines and a different level of donation. Include yourself, family, friends, ancestors, or organizations in the dedication, or share lines with someone else to reduce the cost. Go to the oaklandcsl.org events page to place your order. So these are examples of them. Okay, and then the kickoff for our online silent auction with 32 auctions, so that's the organization hosting it, has been extended to start on October 4th and runs through October 20th. We welcome your donations of products and services, and we welcome your bids for the great items that will be available online. It's lots of fun for our community. Please visit oaklandcsl.org events page for more information. Our nonprofit partner for October is A Safe Place. A Safe Place's mission is to decrease domestic violence by providing victims, survivors, and their children with a safe shelter and resources to break the cycle of violence through outreach and education to at-risk populations and diverse communities. A Safe Place protects thousands of families and individuals who come to them often in the middle of the night, terrified and alone. Visit www.asafeplace.org for more information. The Oakland Center Nonprofit Partners Program provides a platform to feature, support, and introduce members to 12 nonprofit organizations each year. And we highlight each one of those. Each month, a speaker comes and talks about their organization, and they have a table in the courtyard. Applications are being accepted for the 2025 program. To learn more and obtain an application, please visit again oaklandcsl.org, select About Us, and scroll down to the nonprofit partners. The Spirit Treasure Bookstore theme for October is Power to the People, celebrating National Hispanic Heritage Month from September 15th through October 15th. Rosh Hashanah, and by the way, today is the first day of the Jewish New Year. So to any of you that are celebrating Rosh Hashanah, Happy New Year. So Rosh Hashanah from October 2nd through October 4th, and celebrating Day of the Dead, which coincides with Halloween. Okay. Now, before I talk about and acknowledge all of our main contacts at OCSL, there's one more announcement that we don't have a slide for, and that is that the Social Justice Ministry is hosting a viewing of the movie Origin, followed by a discussion facilitated by Reverend Jacqueline Edwards on Saturday, October 5th, 1 to 4 p.m. in the social hall. So that seems to coincide, I think, with the Pride Day, I think, but you can double check this on our website. Okay, and then again, visit, if you want to see the overall organization, go to csl.org to see what's happening within our Centers for Spiritual Living global organization. And then visit our website again at oaklandcsl.org and sign up for our weekly newsletter, The Village News, if you haven't already. And remember to follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook for special updates and content you will only find by liking and subscribing to Oakland Center. Please like us and subscribe to the Oakland Center today. And I want to give a shout out to our key contacts within the Oakland Center. We have, of course, our senior minister, Reverend Dr. Sunshine Michelle Coleman. Beth Von Arkel is our board president. Susan Brecker is our facility usage coordinator and practitioner. Steve Carter is our operations coordinator, and he prepares our slides and documents for these Wednesday nights. Alice Knudsen, who is with us tonight and is always here as part of the AV team on Wednesday nights, and is also a coordinator of the Ministry of Prayer and a practitioner. And Dow Becker is our bookkeeper. So I want to just acknowledge all of them and thank all of them for the wonderful work that they're doing. So thank you all. Next slide. And so now we'll move into our time of joyous giving. And I want to invite you to say with me this affirmation. Joyously I give with an attitude of abundance, knowing that as I give, I do receive, and so it is. Amen. Thank you. So we'll go to the next slide. If you would like to donate to the center, you can again go to oaklandcsl.org and click on this donate button, and it will bring you to see all of these different ways that you can donate. Zelle, you can text, you can use this QR code, you can send a check in the mail, and you can, of course, if you're there in person in service, you can put money in or a check in the offering basket. So we welcome any contribution that you make, and thank you for that. Thank you for anything that you offer this center to help it thrive. And again, thank you to everyone. I want to thank everybody who's participated tonight. Especially, I want to thank our speaker, Megan Lemon-Ross, who just did a wonderful, wonderful job tonight, a wonderful talk on putting the pieces together. And I want to thank all of our team. We have, and I need to move my notes here. Peter is our lead, and he ran our PowerPoint. Alice Herndon was doing our spotlighting. Alice Knudsen was doing our muting and our opening prayer. And and I want to mention also that Megan led our meditation this morning, and will close us out in prayer. And Paul, I want to recognize Paul. He's not here. He's taking a leave, but Paul is the man behind the curtain. He's been our coordinating host for many years and has trained me and Elena to step into his big shoes. So I want to thank Paul and Steve Carter again, our administrator. So thank you all. And now I would like to turn it over to Megan to close us out in prayer. Megan?
Thank you, Judith. So just go ahead and take a deep breath in and let it out. So recognizing that there is only one life, and that is the life of God. And as we deepen in that knowing, we know that we are peace. We are each an instrument of this beloved peace in every way, in every place, in every space that we show up. And resting in this truth, I give great thanks. I thank everyone who has attended the service tonight, who will listen at a later date in time, knowing that as we come together to express this divine, our energy ripples into the universe and it magnifies. And so I just give thanks. I release this knowing that it is perfect in the mind of God. And I say, and so it is. Amen.
And so it is. Thank you, Megan.
So